on the bottom. Yeah, there you go. You could turn the video off by hitting a little camera at the bottom.
Yeah, yeah, there we go.
And it's, you get less dropouts because when you listen back to these things, that's really irritating when like you lose words and shit.
Oh yeah, I know. I've been going through so many technical issues. You've been doing a show forever. You finally conquered
Not
all the
forever,
technical issue.
forever, but 19 years and 5 months.
That's quite a long time. I just started like everybody else started during COVID.
Oh,
Seem-
really? So recently? Okay.
Well, I mean, it's been what 5, 6 months since Michigan got that lockdown. That's when I started. So, yeah,
Okay.
about
Okay.
a
And
hundred
I
people.
started way before that because, well, here's what I had going, Jimmy.
Yeah.
There was a pirate radio show here, well, not here in Pedro, but about 30 miles north in Silver Lake called KBLT. And Keith, they had all these different DJs, and Keith Morris was one of them, the singer of the Circle Jerks.
Uh
So
huh.
he was going on tour, and the lady who was running it out of her pad, her name was Paige. In fact, she wrote a book about it. It's called 40 Watts from Nowhere.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
She asked me to substitute. And I had, all the years of touring and being on radio shows, college and whatever, FM rock, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
never been on the side of the microphone like you're on. I've always been on the side Watt's on now. So, first time ever. And so I would play my old punk records. And of course, they all had stories. Because
Hmm.
I was worried about what am I going to talk about. But I just talked about, the memories and stuff like that. And about 2 years, they gave me my own show on Friday nights for 2 hours.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I got into it. But then the FCC came down and shut the station, because it was pirate
Yeah.
radio. And I was bummed out. It was the end of the 90s, and I was touring, and I had some buddies in Portland I talked with, and they were starting a company hosting websites. Hey, Watt, you could put your show. Here's the weird thing: you couldn't hear That's why I called it the Watt from Pedro show because I didn't live up in Silver Lake, and you
Yeah.
couldn't hear it in Pedro. You could only hear it about 5 miles from Silver Lake. So Watt, if we put it on the internet, anybody with a computer can hear this.
Right.
Sarajevo, London, wherever.
Hmm.
Uh, La Paz. I was like, okay. And so that's where I got into this putting an MP3 file up on the internet and letting people listen. And plus, I always thought it was a good way for me to try and pay back the debt I owed the movement because they
Yeah.
let D Boone Minutemen, get to go out there and let a freak flag fly. So why shouldn't I, same thing with people making music out of their bedroom and shit. Why not give them the same chance? So that's, the show ain't merch, right? I don't play
Right. Right.
stuff. I just play, people with the spirit to be adventurous. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah. So, how far was the pirate radio station? Was that hitting L.A.? Was it that far?
Well, it was in Silver Lake is like East Hollywood,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm familiar
so it
with
was
it.
a couple miles away. So they probably could get it, but there's tall buildings. With that low power stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had one in Hamtramck here, which is inside of Detroit. It
I
was an
played
AM station.
Hamtramck. I
Yeah.
played Hamtramck, a place called Paychecks.
Oh yeah, I've played
Also, a
Paychecks.
place called Shorty's.
Shorties. That might have been before my time. I don't. I moved to Detroit in '99. I don't know if Shorties was still around or not.
Oh, okay. Well, things come and go, but I remember Hamtramck. It was an old Polish part of downtown Detroit,
That's
and
right.
they said it had a lot of bars per mile per capita.
Yeah, I've heard it's the most bars per capita, or at least it was, because it was the factories were around
Right,
Hamtramck. So everyone worked at those factories, of course, and they
right,
needed a bar after work.
right. So that makes sense. But Paychecks was named that because people would like, right? They'd be drinking all week and there goes
Yeah.
the paycheck, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I was told. That's what I was told.
Yeah, Friday night or whenever they got their check, they go cash it at the bar. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So, ever since I started touring, I always made sure Detroit and the area was part of the route.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved here from Chicago in '99 to help start an arts nonprofit, which is really still going strong in the schools in the city.
Oh,
And
good.
then we moved to New York after that. But and then back, we're in Ypsilanti now. So
Oh, do you know who's from there?
who's that?
Ig.
Yeah, I know. I was just joking with you.
Okay. He's the only guy I know from Ipsy,
Yeah.
right next
Well,
to Ann Arbor. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And right next door, it's obviously a lot more affordable. But yeah, I like it here. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Because people, Ann Arbor may be 40 miles west of Detroit, but
Mm-hmm.
still in the area, but kind of a college town.
Right, right, right.
Probably why it's more expensive to live there.
Yeah, I mean it's a really nice place. I was just watching a documentary on Cream just last night. You know, the magazine, and it
Sure.
has interesting history around here too. Of course, I
Dearborn,
was
I think Dearborn.
yeah. It moved around a little bit from what they said in the movie, from
Yeah.
Detroit to here and there.
I used to read it. It was the only rock and roll magazine that was worth anything, right?
Yeah,
Richard
yeah,
Meltzer wrote in it. Lester Bangs was the editor. Greg Turner from the Angry Samoans wrote in it. Metal Mike.
right.
I remember when Richard Meltzer put a Minuteman review of our Bean Spill EP.
Oh
I
yeah,
couldn't believe it. Yeah, because I read that as a boy, and to see that in there,
yeah.
called us scientist rock. So I put it, minute that word or phrase in a Minuteman song.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So what do you think they were talking about? Scientists? Is that like math rock or is
I
that
don't know. I don't know. But he wrote words for the Blue Oyster Cult. He
right,
kind of
right.
invented right rock. A big hero of ours, me and D Boone,
Yeah.
was Richard Meltzer. I mean, and for him to write about us, he could call us plumber rock, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
Just as,
that.
yeah, because just love the guy so much.
Yeah, you get into I don't know, maybe it's your first interview or first thing, and I don't know, you just feel like that's where I wanted to be. I can't believe I'm talking to this magazine or this radio station or whatever it is for you. So Cream was part of it for you, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was big. It was a big deal. I mean, after that, maybe fanzines, right? Because
Yeah,
the movement was coming in. So we had Slash and Flipside here in SoCal, and it it was about people who really dug, what was happening, and not really some kind of tool for the labels.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's kind of turned into what it is now. I like some of the Brooklyn vegan and stuff, but it's kind of part of the machine to prop someone's new album. And
Well, it was worse. I think it was worse in the old days.
yeah.
Yeah, because there's more places for it to come from, right? Because the internet, anybody with a computer in those
Oh, I
days,
know.
as a publishing company, right?
Hmm.
So, and then the whole idea of the fanzines, that changed. It was the same idea of the small labels. And
Right.
actually, I learned from doing 125 months with the Stooges, there actually was a small label scene in the 60s in clubs and stuff. But see, arena rock came and that all went away. And kind of the movement was us learning about it. It was for us, people, teenagers in the 70s. We didn't know, we were only kids in the 60s. So we didn't know about that stuff. We thought all rock and roll was Nuremberg rallies, and big stadium shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't know about the little stuff, but actually that's where it came from, right? Even before 60s with Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and that stuff. It's club music.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
if you're born and if you're 13 years old in 1970, first gig me and D Boom went to was T Rex,
Yeah.
which I
That's
liked a lot, but the dude was like half-inch tall. You know what I mean? Big gigs,
yeah.
not happening. Terrible sound you can imagine. I mean, they're kind of a social thing, but everybody's in the dark, sitting there in a place built for sports, terrible acoustics. And, and then the outside things, like California Jam and
Yeah.
I don't know. When I found out about clubs and getting to see the Germs at the Whiskey, whoa,
Right.
right?
Right.
Nothing like it. I mean, I'm glad we saw T Rex and everything, but it was nothing like us seeing the Germs at the Whiskey. You know, there's something about music that's pressing on you. That's
Hmm.
you can you can see what's happening. You can feel what's happening. You're part of it. There's yeah, the arena rock really, but in a way, it was kind of like manure. I think for yeah, like a farmer would use to grow crops.
Sure. Sure.
That was such a lame experience. It really made us want to get into this movement.
So manure is fertilizer for that whole thing that's grown out of it, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Like there probably couldn't have been a punk movement without arena rock. It's weird, how it kind of gave birth to its I don't know, pesticide.
Yeah. No, I understand that you got to have an action and a reaction and
Yeah,
all that to make something real. I
yeah.
mean, that's kind of where punk. I don't really like the term punk, to be honest. What's your feeling on the word
Well,
punk?
when I think of punk, I never think of a style of music. I think of a kind of state of mind where things don't seem to fit. So why not get a little parallel universe going?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the way I look at it. Because yeah, in our town, punk was a guy who got fucked in jail for cigarettes. We could not believe somebody would call their music this. And actually, the first place I read it was in Cream magazine.
yeah, yeah. I've heard
And then when I
different
heard
stories.
it, yeah, and I thought it was going to be all like people dressed like Aladdin Sane playing synthesizers, from Mars or something. Yeah, and then I heard it and it sounded like kind of like the Who,
Yeah,
My Generation, or Can't Explain, guitar, or Little Richard, Tutti Frutti. It was kind of simplified. Because for a long time there was no punk records. You just heard people talking about it. And then the Dam came down with this. It was called New Rose.
okay.
I got a new rose. I got a good yeah. And we were like, wow, you know what? We kind of know what this is. In fact, maybe the Stooges and Captain Beefheart were already doing this stuff, and they just didn't have a name for it in the '60s.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of predated it almost.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes this. It seems humans got this obsession with labels.
Yeah.
They can't something unless they put a tag on it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the failure of a lot of rock critics. They'll fit you in. Oh, these guys are punk. Oh, these guys are proto punk. Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever.
New wave.
Yeah.
That was the worst. No, no. We're even worse than new wave was about 10 years later. Alternative.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's an alternative to music. Silence.
I know. I was growing up in the '80s and '90s, early '90s, and yeah, alternative or college rock. That was kind of a
Yeah,
whole genre.
that's so funny because at first there was no punk at the college. And then, bands like REM got it in there and it was really important because they would play it on the stations
Hmm.
and it had different kinds of people coming to the gigs. But what or indie rock? How does that
I don't know.
yeah, how does that make a sound?
No, it just means you put it out yourself, really, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
right. That means it could sound like anything, right? But all of a sudden, indie rock is a certain sound. It's kind of like emo, whatever emo is. I
Hmm.
thought emo was like, Rites of Spring, right? That Discord band.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. Now you got pop punk, which is just those two things don't go together for me. I don't
Yeah,
understand that
I think
connection.
that's somebody copying the Buzzcocks, which the Buzzcocks were. See, punk. It was supposed to be, I think, a big tent thing. It was not supposed to be a certain kind of narrow thing. It was just, but then like, oh, well, look, more Tutti Fruities got sold by Pat Boone than Little Richard. Let's put it that way. Phenomena, shit get co-opted.
Yeah, it's watered down, and
Yeah,
then it becomes something altogether new, I guess, for better or
abs-
worse sometimes.
absolutely. So what you got to do is you got to find the value. If you want to know some real DIY, look at fucking Walt Whitman in 1855 with his Leaves of Grass. He had to put that
Yeah.
out himself. He thought he was going to stop the Civil War with 12 fucking poems. But that's spirit. So it ain't really that new. It's actually a tradition.
Hmm.
But see, people, especially if they're into like trends and hip, they're not concerned with that reality.
No, no, it's more about the scene and being cool and
Yeah.
everything else. High fives all around.
So it gets kind of shallow, right? You don't want to take a swan dive in that pool, break
No.
your fucking head.
And I think what you said about Whitman is true for everything. You have to believe that those five poems will mean something. You have to believe that your song will mean something. Otherwise, you're doing it for, I don't know, the girls or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Service a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough fucking jive shit like that. At least the arts, you know, you can plant your foot and go down swinging, whatever, but let the freak flag fly.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you believe in it and you believe it's going to change something, well, you're
Yeah,
heading in the right direction at least.
yeah, and that's actually an old tradition. It's not just something that got thought up with the pink hair dye.
Right. Right.
Although I gotta admit, Halloween is my favorite holiday.
It
It's
seems to be everybody's holiday these days because it's not like religious or political. It's
well,
just
it's one
fun.
day, one day all year that we admit we wear fucking costumes.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're going to have it around here with COVID. I don't know if the kids are going to come around or not.
I would always play a gig. I haven't in the last few years, but and I remember doing one at the Greystone. There was a club in Detroit called the Greystone. It was right next to a fire station.
Okay.
Well, the night before and the night they used to light fires, so the sirens were going the whole fucking time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had
Devil's Night.
right, that's it. I had found the night before we were playing in uh, Pittsburgh, and I found a thrift store that had a fucking old Mason's outfit. It was in a little suitcase and shit, and D. Boone said you shouldn't wear that, but I wore it anyway.
Why weren't you
So
supposed to wear it, dude? You're
I
going to
don't know
get
why he
sucked
said
in.
that. D. Boone wasn't that superstitious, but he did. He thought it was kind of weird me wearing it, and it was really old. It was like 100 years old and all moth eaten, and this old wool thing, and it was a trip. It was a trip. I still got it.
Yeah, we did a show. There's a big Halloween party here at the Masonic Temple every year, and they got rock bands and everything, and people eating fire, the whole deal. And
Yeah.
our drummer wouldn't do it. She's too superstitious. She's from the old country, Albania, and
Okay.
we had to get another drummer for that show. It's kind of funny. I mean, she does what she does, but it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. You know that. Well, people. The whole idea of getting kind of obsessed by theories
Hmm.
and then running your whole life by them.
Yeah, putting those parameters on yourself,
Yeah.
kind of holding yourself back in that way.
Yeah. But, as long as nobody gets hurt, it's okay. You know what I mean? Because hopefully down the road, maybe she'll change her mind.
Yeah, I mean she's great, and we don't play together anymore. But she's a marvelous drummer. She's just superstitious. That's how it goes. A lot of gypsies in
Yeah.
Albania. There's a lot of that culture.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, I never got to play there. I played there close, Macedonia, Skopje,
Yeah, yeah,
and Athens, but I've never got to play there. But one day I will get to. There's cool people everywhere, man. There's always righteous things. That's one of the greatest benefits me and D Boone found out about doing music was
hmm.
torn, which was in those days when you read the interviews about rock bands, they were always complaining about it. But man, me and D Boone, because we're from working families, right? So
Right, right.
people pay for this. They call them vacations.
Yeah, I always felt that way. I always felt like someone cares enough about my art form that they're going to have me in their town to perform for,
Yeah,
whoever.
it's
That's
amazing. And talk about an old tradition. It goes back to vaudeville, right? Working the
hmm
towns. Yeah.
yeah, traveling
You know, this idea
vaudeville.
that the only thing that's traditional is things what people call, uh, a conservative, you
hmm
know, conservation. You want to save stuff from the old days, but it doesn't mean that. It's got that, it's this whole like kind of bundle of whatever. And there's
Yeah.
lots of things that are traditional that are pretty fucking bold and, go out there and learn about stuff. It's not about close up everything. And you know what I
Right.
mean? There's huge traditions of this stuff. Sally forth and open up your mind and see what's out there and what other people have to say and do and express, and not just pulling up the drawbridges and stupid stuff like this. It's like almost a monopoly on the semantics on the words. And there's the idea of working, especially in the older days where, yeah, there's no TV or radio and the farmers are working all day. So they
Yeah.
need a group of people going from town to town to do some, juggling, some theater, some music,
hmm
some painting, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you there on the semantics. I mean, that's been a whole twisted thing with the Trump world that we live in.
Yeah.
Words mean something else, and they get co-opted, and yeah, it cuts short what real tradition means. It doesn't mean lock and load necessarily.
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. That's a great econo way of putting it, Jimmy.
So I wanted to talk about how San Pedro. It's Pedro. I always say Pedro. It's
Yeah,
Pedro.
because well, Espanol should be Pedro, okay? Peter.
Okay.
He's right with the Llaves. He's a patron saint for fishermen, and yeah,
Right.
we're a harbor town.
That
But
that's what I wanted to talk about. The port of Los Angeles.
right, but early days, a
Mm-hmm.
lot. We're talking over 100 years ago. A lot of the sailors were Scandinavian.
Okay.
Okay, so you're talking Norway, Sweden, Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
These guys didn't really know a lot about the Espanol, so they fucked up the pronunciation. But I gotta tell you, and the guy who found this place, well, found it. There was thousands of dudes living here called
Right.
drug.
Right. Right.
This wine Cabrillo guy, we do call the beach Cabrillo. Okay, but they're the only two ones we fuck up. We don't say tortillas. We don't say gelatos. We don't say fried joels.
Yeah.
Okay, QSO. We say all the other ones right, but I think in a way, even the Latin guys say Pedro because it's kind of a test. If we hear Pedro, we know you haven't been here.
Yeah. I've been there. That's
Yeah.
like St. Louis. Like if you say,
Right,
I don't know, different
right.
people pronounce different things, but if you're from there, you say
What do they call?
Houston Street in New York. Not Houston.
That's right. What do they call it? Colloquialism. It's how
Yeah.
it's said.
Yeah.
It's how it's said.
Oh, there's a lot of those in Detroit area, that's for sure. If you're not in, if you say the wrong words, people know where you're from.
Right. Well, in the old day, well, not real old days, but starting maybe in the late 70s, 80s, where
hmm
you that was the scariest question you could be asked from a car driving by. Where are you from?
yeah, yeah.
Man,
If you're
get faced because how do you know what's going to be the right answer, right? No, man. You just
yeah,
don't.
if you're on tour in Nebraska and someone says where are you from, you're like, should I tell them? Should I make something up politically? Are they gonna? What's gonna go on here?
Or even next door here, Wilmington, or even what part of Pedro, whatever. But
Yeah.
it can get territorial that way. But we're part of the harbor of Los Angeles. We share it with Long Beach and Wilmington. Wilmington with us is part of Los Angeles. So we're the west and north part, and then Long Beach is the east part. That's where Snoop Dogg's from.
No.
If you want a frame of reference.
Frame of
So
reference.
our harbor now is the busiest one in the United States because all the trade, with Asia. The Vietnam War ended, so we could close down the Navy base. They came up with this invention called the can, the shipping container.
Right.
So
Right.
all these three things happened. Mao Zedong died too, so China was open for business. So all these things came together, and it turned us into what we were. Now, before that, Pedro was mainly uh, tuna for about
Tuna.
50, 60 years. Yeah, Star Kiss, Chicken
Mm-hmm.
and Sea, all that stuff comes out of this town because, yeah, tuna was like cat food. And then somebody thought, hey, put some mayonnaise with it. Ah, tuna salad. It's in everybody's lunch sack, right?
Oh yeah, I grew up on it.
The motherfuckers, they fished out all the tuna.
It's all gone.
Yeah, so we got 20 boats down. What didn't go away was a squid. That's a funny story too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's that about? So
two
I didn't
friends.
know squid was on the Pacific so much.
Yeah, big time. In fact, it's the thing that didn't go down, probably because there's no tuna to eat them because fished them all out. With 2 cents a pound, you call it fucking calamari, you can sell it for $2 a pound. Same animal.
Yeah.
So that's where we're changing. Now, what's Harbor's still changing. The big job here is longshoremen, right? My second man, both Jared and Pete, they're longshoremen, the guys that take and put the stuff on the boats and on the docks. But
Right.
everything's getting automated, so
Mm-hmm.
that's going to change. You know what I mean? Things go through. So what we're trying now is trying to, farm mussels, stuff like this. Use the oceans for energy with the tides. You
Right.
know, different kinds of things. So the harbor's still in a change. Probably always will be. Humans are like this, you know.
Yeah, I know people get down on, oh, new technology, you're gonna put this person out of work. Yeah, in the short term, but we also put the horse stables out of work when we had a car. I mean, this is just
I mean, I know exactly what you mean. On 19th Street here, we got this big, huge building. It's called the Union Ice Building. Dudes used to have to, like, right? Bring
hmm
blocks of ice to people's pads.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A lot of hurt backs.
Yeah, I mean, all the houses in Detroit have the coal chute that someone would come and, just
That's
fill up
it.
their coal chute to heat their house.
That's it. That's it. Okay. So that kind of went by the wayside, right? But
hmm
then you had refrigerator men, right? And a repairman. And
Right.
so you're exactly right. We learn how to, right? We play the hand that gets dealt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You look for the opportunities and you just try to do what's best.
Either that or you're going to, like, what, run after the train waving your arms. You're going too fast. You're going.
Yeah, I guess it's harder to rob a stagecoach or a train these days. They go too fast.
Yeah, go too fast. So you can complain and all this stuff, but hey, bye bye. Things change. And so you kind of have to adapt.
How do you feel that informs like music these days? Because
Well,
things have changed so much.
for example, John Coltrane's bass player, Jimmy Garrison, he's playing
hmm
this gigantic violin. You know how hard it is to schlep that thing around? I mean, tie it right because they didn't even have vans. They toured in station wagons. So they tie these motherfuckers to the roofs. I'm still a bass man. The bass didn't disappear. Just
Right.
Leo Fender came up with this thing called the precision bass, which
hmm
meant all precision meant was it had frets.
Oh, I didn't know the.
That's all it means.
Yeah.
He never played. Leo didn't play. He a little saxophone, a little piano, but he never played. But he wanted to help his friends out. Probably wanted to sell a couple too. But anyway, changed that whole instrument. We have and Mr. James Jamerson, who's on all the Motown out of Hitsville,
Oh yeah,
where
one of
you
my
are.
favorites for sure.
He's the guy who said, look, and he came from the stand-up bass, but he said, whoa, okay, here's the new machine. It's a little easier to record, a lot easier to tour with.
No, yeah.
And man, it did not go obsolete. We still got bass frequencies on the recordings, and they're thumping, and they're improvising, and man, such an inspiration. The guy who came from South Carolina to Michigan, for probably his pop for the work, and then adapts the music, right? This new
Yeah.
kind of music called soul, right? And it's being put on records. Yeah, it was hard to record the stand-up bass where, a lot of feedback, a lot of just problems with it. And so Leo Fender comes out. Actually, his buddies was playing country. This is why I hate the idea of genre. Music is music.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you when you come up with an invention like that, it helps all the musics.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right, right. So James Jamerson gets his hand on one of these such things, and bye bye. Even though he loved the stand up bass, from what I read, this was the thing that was going to get on the records, and he's on more top 10 hits than any musician alive. His name's only on one, uh, Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On," because Berry Gordy, is the Funk Brothers, right? It was some
Yeah.
anonymous guys, but these guys every day was putting in time working it, and him developing what he did on the bass. No other device, he went straight into the board. It was just that.
Right, right.
And like him, I never moved to five strings even. There's so much to explore just with this simple thing. And Leo comes up with it in 1951. So the thing is almost 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, the way I look at it, Jimmy, is like a, a pocket knife. What can you carve with that knife? The art,
Right.
there's some kind of art to the knife itself, but the real art is what can be carved with that knife. The
Yeah.
potential, yeah. And that's the way I see the bass, and how the technology moved and didn't destroy the potential of creating with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's three chords that everyone's used at one time or another. How do you play those chords? Rhythm? What are you doing? What distortion? There's all these different
What
variations.
what about Stooges TVI? That's one chord.
Yeah, yeah.
So is Harry Nilsson, Lime in the Coconut.
Oh,
One
I know
chord.
you listen to some of those and you're like, that's easy. It's not easy. It's
Oh,
not.
he did all the voices on that. He did everything.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing song. And that Stooges is one of my favorite songs ever, TVI. And they didn't even have to go to a second chord.
And it still says so much. It
Yeah.
probably
And
says
it's
more
trippy.
than.
Scotty, the drums is the Motown snare on the one thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It works perfect.
Yeah, for me, it says a lot more than a Yngwie Malmsteen 20-minute solo or something like that. I can feel it. It's real.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something, humans, the more they do something, the more and more they want to do. So
Yeah.
you know how to play some notes, play some more, some more and more. It's funny about what I'm on though, because the bass, the physics, we get smaller and smaller. The more notes we play, the tinier we get. So yeah, yeah. So it's always a search for the right notes on the bass, not the most.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm spared the fucking fate of Ingve.
Yeah, there's that arch. You start out, you don't know much, and then you get better, and you know too much. And if
Yeah,
you're really good, you realize that you need to bring it back down. You know.
I was just reading Stanley Clark saying anybody can do a bass solo. Now, writing a good bass line,
Right. Right.
that's Stanley Clark.
No, that's also true. I was playing with the drummer. I loved him. He didn't know much about anything. He's taking lessons. He got really good. I had to tell him to, we shouldn't play together anymore. It just, he was, he was all over the place, cymbals, everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, take a breath, bring it back. But yeah, it's weird
Well,
stuff.
lose the big picture.
Hmm.
Here's the problem with the machines. Yeah, you get so much into the machine, you forget it's an ensemble of machines.
That's the thing, isn't it?
And it's a big picture, right? Like with Vincent, you look at one of his paintings, you don't look at the one hair he painted, it's the whole stubble on his chin. It's the whole dealio.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
he was so econo, he only needed a few moves to do what he needed to do. Yeah, yeah. And that
yeah.
probably came from all the fucking prac. He was doing buttloads of paintings every day.
Hmm.
But he only painted his last 10 years of his life. You don't have to be a prodigy. This is why I try to tell people in music. Joe Baiza was 27 years old, the Sacred Trust guitars, when he started guitar.
Yeah.
It comes to you when it comes to you. And, I could see practicing, but this idea where you lose sight of the forest just to be on one tree, watch out.
Yeah, I got you, man. Everybody plays their part, And if you're not doing your part, as minimal as it may be, it's just not gonna it's not gonna come out right. You got to understand what the other players are doing, kind of like jazz, I think.
Yeah. Or remember that Talking Head song, Psycho Killer?
Uh huh. Uh
You
huh.
could tell the lady was just playing, just starting. But that shows you on bass, you can just start and write a great bass line.
Oh, and she's amazing too. I think she made the band myself.
Yeah, yeah, she's a big asset, and they just needed somebody on bass. So hey, teach your girlfriend. I was reading this stuff.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, she ends up. Yeah, I agree with you, Jimmy. She's a big part of that band.
I might get the name wrong. It's Tammy Weymouth, right? I think that's her name.
Yeah, that last name,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tina. Tina.
Tina. Yeah, I'll take that part out.
That's okay.
uh, did you know that Michigan has all four of the Great Lakes?
Yeah, it's got fresh water on all its sides except one,
Yeah, I read that it's the largest freshwater system in the world, in the whole world.
which is amazing about the Flint Sitch.
Yeah,
You know, motherfuckers.
we got everything except Ontario. You know, Superior, Huron, Michigan,
Yeah,
Erie.
right. So all that fresh water, and they got lead in the system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just let the factories,
Not to mention the nuclear the power plants they decide to just throw up there on the river or the
yeah,
lake.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, see, that's not long term. Like I
right.
said, they talk one game, but they do another game. They're just using words to like hide some bullshit.
That's it. Is misdirection.
Yeah, misdirect.
Misdirection.
So Michigan is special like that. Also, anybody from there, they always show you their right hand, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Show you where they live.
That's the thing, isn't it? You kind of have to point to like the crux or the between your thumb and your index finger, and somewhere in there is Detroit, I think.
Right,
Maybe a
right,
little lower than the thumb. Oh yeah,
right.
the mitten. People like to call it the mitten.
Big mitten. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Uh, I wish I could see more of it. This both Ronnie and Scotty had cabins there. They
Oh
got
yeah.
Scotty was up north, Drummond Island,
Okay.
Boundary Waters, and then Ronnie had one on Lake Huron on the east side. And I never,
Right, right.
I saw pictures, but I never got to go to stay there. But
Yeah.
I did get to play. I mean, this is Minnesota part, but on Superior, I got to play Duluth.
Oh yeah. I haven't been
That,
there. Is it? How's it? How's the water?
what was it? It was a really gray day, and it was like ocean. I mean, it was so fucking huge. It didn't seem like a lake. There was
Right.
waves and shit. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I felt in Chicago. I mean, they call it what the third coast or something because you're sitting there, you don't see across Lake Michigan.
yeah.
it feels as big as the Pacific or Atlantic when you're staring at it.
And that's what was amazing about the Erie Canal because it connected, the Hudson River with the Great Lakes.
Right.
The Atlantic Ocean, it opened, it was the first big public works thing for the U.S. and it was great. And you know who hated it? Andy Jackson,
Of
of course.
course. That goes without saying almost,
He
doesn't
does
it?
not say it right. But yeah, because the older days, that's how you got around was the water.
Right, right. Transportation and
Right,
goods, like any
right,
port
right.
city, you got your textiles and whatever you're going to try to get somewhere.
It's still the most economical way to move stuff if you're doing pound per cost of fuel.
So what do they bring over from Asia? They bring over, is it electronics mainly that they're bringing over to Pedro?
Yeah. Oh, well, automobiles, of course. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
all lots of the clothes, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's not just China, but that's also Pakistan, India. Asia's a huge thing. It's where like 2 out of 3 people live, and a lot of the stuff, manufactured stuff, does come from over there. And uh, you know, they build up the middle classes more. They'll be buying more stuff from us, but uh, trade in some ways. I think it's a healthy thing. I know some people use it as a weird kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everything can be manipulated into a
That's right.
political
That's right.
power kind of struggle, but I think it is too. I think it, in some way, it brings you together. It gives you a little more understanding of what's going on around the world.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want people made slaves over there, and you don't want people over here buying poisonous stuff. So it's got to be fair trade. It's got to be in not
Right.
extra shit. But
Yeah, there has to be that, definitely, and more it needs to be that.
yeah, yeah. But hopefully we do that with with the chow, right? You don't want poisonous shit in the stores.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only like 100 years old. They didn't do that before.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. And then you got the health food section at the grocery store. So,
Yeah.
the joke is, what's the rest of it then?
So, yeah. So whenever you got things like that, uh, borders, people moving stuff, it's
So,
it's better than going to war over it. You work out a deal.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, most wars are over some sort of oil, some sort of
Yeah.
natural resource, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, I was listening to that MSSV album. That's a pretty new one, right?
Yeah, this guy named Mike Baguette, he lives in Knoxville, Tennessee, put this band together and asked me and Steve Hodges,
Mm-hmm.
who actually was a drummer man from my first opera 25 years ago, contemplating the instrument. So I'm back with Steve Hodges. For a while, he was playing with Mavis Staples. And
Oh, really?
Mike Maggette is originally a Western Massachusetts guy. And
Okay.
he lives in Knoxville now, like I said. And I would consider him kind of like the Nels Klein type. You were in Chicago, so Wilco, right? This guy plays with Wilco, but
Sure.
Nels goes way back. Uh, and kind of a avant-garde jazz, but still, Jimmy Yardbird's Stooges kind of rock and roll. It's a trippy kind of mix, but it's for me, it's kind of a new thing because okay, I've helped some bands like Stooges, Porto for Pyros,
Mm-hmm.
Jay Mascis,
Right, right.
uh, Flipper, Tab Falco, and yeah, I'm playing older songs. Usually, I'm replacing the dead guy, right? But in this, and look, a lot of them are great songs. I don't want to
Oh,
change
of
the
course.
bass
Of
lines.
course.
But in this thing here, Mike Baguette actually writes the bass lines for me. I've never been in that situation before where they're written for me. It's like I'm not playing other people's bass lines. I'm playing bass lines that he's written for his songs. So that's
New songs that he's composed,
right. This
and you're
band,
one of the
this trio,
players.
right. That's a new thing for me. There's different ways to collaborate with people, right? I mean, they're the shot callers, so they direct you on what to play and stuff like that. Or like you play the old songs, so you have to learn the old parts. Or you're the shot caller. You're asking them to play stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or kind of a thing where you both kind of bring in, like me and D Boone, right? He'd show me a guitar thing. I'd come up. D Boone never wrote me a bass line. I never wrote D Boone's parts.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes
Uh-huh.
I did write songs on guitar, but it wasn't like a D Boone part. I just didn't want to write the bass first. But that was like maybe 5%. History lesson part two or something like this. So this is a new way for me where a guy's actually writing new songs and then new bass parts for me to play.
What about the vocals? Was the vocals your idea?
That was his idea too.
Was
So
it?
yeah, it's his band. See, what this is the tricky thing, Jimmy. Uh, a band, right, is kind
Mm-hmm.
of has its own identity.
Oh, for sure.
Now, if some of the members of that band are known besides that band, it changes everything.
Oh, I know what you
If
mean.
you only heard the guy Mike Watt, oh, it must be Mike Watt's band,
Right,
but
right, right.
it ain't. And
Yeah.
which I think is good because what I've found out about you know doing this since with D Boone, we were 12 when we started. I'm 62 now, so 50 years.
Right.
It's about taking turns. So in one situation, you're shot caller. Other situation, you're taking direction. Other situation, like I'm in a band with two Italian guys called Il Sogno di Marinaio. That's totally collaborating. I only write a third of the songs. Or with Mike Baguetta, I don't write any of the songs. But I'm not doing old songs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's different ways of doing it, right? Otherwise, it's pretty near like being in I Love Lucy reruns, where this week it's pizzas, next week it's mayonnaise. You want to take turns doing because I don't know if he wrote the plays, but Shakespeare, right? Life is a stage and many roles. I think
Right.
that's the
Right.
way it is. You take turns.
Oh, I
Otherwise,
agree.
it all, you know what I mean? Kind of stunted. You can't. Okay, we're taught by society that being the boss is victory. That means winning, right? But
Sure.
we know if you're always the boss, there's a lot of stuff you're never going to learn because you always get your fucking way.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the blinders on because you got all these
That's
yes
right.
men.
So if you're always the boss, you're going to miss out on a lot. So my idea is, in this little journey of music with the bass guitar, is take different roles. So with MSSV, yeah, I'm kind of more traditional, right? Because
Right.
bass players, right, they were always, I don't know, there used to be a big hierarchy thing. I think with the movement and stuff, in fact, I meet young people now, it's the first thing they want to play. In the old days, it never was. It was a guitar guy who couldn't get work in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, want to be a bass player? Well, there's different ways to do it. And so that's what I try to do. I try to put myself in different situations. So it's not the same thing. It's not just the different people, but it's also the way you set it up.
Yeah.
Collab.
It changes the collaboration. It
Yeah.
changes the artistic environment in a way.
Right.
Because
And
yeah, I write a
usually,
lot of my own songs. I demo them. People play them with me, bring in their own parts. But I've also been in bands or been asked to do recordings where they're like, "Here, you play this part," and there's so much freedom in that sometimes.
okay. Then you know exactly where I'm coming from.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And Mike Baguetta, it just seemed like it was a chance, one recording thing. Actually, the drummer was Jim Keltner. But then after, when the record came out, he said he wanted to do gigs. And I had such a good experience with him that one day in the studio, I said, sure,
Yeah.
why not? Roll the dice. Turned out to be a really neat thing. I really enjoy playing with him, and it's a trippy kind of place. Like I said, it's a place where I never really been. I never had guys write Mike Watt bass lines. It's the
Yeah.
first time ever.
Yeah, and like you said, playing any instrument or any art form is a journey. You don't want to be the same place you started out because,
Yeah.
what good is that?
Yeah, it's kind of jive. It's kind of pretending. It's kind of like walling out a lot of the reality just to make your little play, your little theater.
Yeah.
There's a life of you, some
Well,
shit.
people get stuck with like, oh, people like what I'm doing in this environment. I'm gonna keep doing that to stay, my perspective of successful, which it's limiting. Like we keep saying, it's just limiting.
Yeah, and then some of these guys, sure, it's service to lifestyle, and then they're all bitter. The last thing they want to even fucking talk about is music. So bummed out.
Yeah, yeah.
No more. The world of possibilities has just ended. It's all dinosaur, uh, dead things, and them just sleepwalking and connecting the dots till they die. I mean, what?
Right, right, right. I mean, there is some joy in playing the old stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, no, not. I'm not against that at all.
Right.
I'm not against that at all. But that's just one way to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I mean, if you don't play some old stuff, how do you know what is old? So you know what I mean? You need some of there, just if anything, to serve as an example. But it also can be foundation for tomorrow. Like,
That's it.
for
Foundation.
example, some guy at a swimming pool, and he's a diver. But a big part of the diver is the fucking diving board. And the diving board is the only way it's involved is it launches you. It doesn't tell you how you're going to do it.
Yep, yep.
Okay. That's the way I look at the old days. It's kind of the launch pad, the diving board.
Yeah, foundation to build off of for sure.
And in fact, I've kind of, like we were saying about the bass, a lot of the tradition, it's added last. It's the low man on the totem pole, unless it's reggae, R&B. But I try to use it as a composition tool. Well, that's how I learned with D Boon, So
Yeah.
I've continued to do that, where I don't know what the rest. I mean, I write the tune, I put all the verses, the bridges, the intros, outros, the choruses. I write them all on the bass, but it leaves all this room for the drummer, for the guitar man, keyboards, whatever. I like the idea of being kind of a springboard, and you don't realize the whole tune. You kind of point it, but bass doesn't have all that harmonic content. It's got the rhythm, it's got the starts and stops. So, you're a traffic cop a little bit, but you're also with your hands open saying, please, aid and abet.
Yeah. There we go. That's it. Aid and abet. That's all the big questions I have.
Well, you ask good ones, Jim. Yeah, well, you ask good ones because usually they ask me bullshit ones.
Yeah, I figure when I talk to people, you answered the same questions a million times. Everybody knows. I know. Everybody who is interested knows. I'd like to hear about the lakes and rivers.
Yeah, okay. I like it.
All right, man. We'll keep in touch and hopefully
Absolutely.
we can do something again someday.
Anytime I'm there for you, Jim.
All right. Take
Okay,
care, Mike.
you too.
Bye.